Hey guys, it's Mia with the Cozy Bookshop, and I am here today to talk to you guys about some of the books that have changed my life. I am a firm believer in the fact that a book can and does have a very real impact on us in a way that not really much else can, and I'm a firm believer that a book can completely and 100% change your life. And I'm not just talking about nonfiction or memoir type books, but even just a work of general fiction has the ability to transform you as a person. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about some of the books that have changed me as a person, have affected my life, have really reaffirmed things for me, whatever you want to say. This is by no means a comprehensive list, just a handful that I've picked here and there that have special meaning for me, or will always have a special place in my heart. So, without further ado, let's get into the video. The first book on my list is Heidi by Johanna Spyri. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Crossing my fingers. This book is really the book that started me on my journey as a reader. It's one of the earliest books that I remember reading. This is actually one of my childhood copies of this book. And it will always hold a special place because I believe that this is kind of where my whole journey as a reader begins, is with this book. The next book on my list is actually the whole kind of series of The Little Town by Laura Ingalls Wilder. Her whole series of books, this one is Little Town on the Prairie, and this one actually is also the copy that I had as a child. And you can just see, just by this copy, how well loved these books were. This really introduced me to chapter books, A, and B, to the fact that books have the ability to take you out of yourself, to take you to new places, back in history, and really tell you what life was like. And these books, I've been hankering to reread them actually, because it's been so long since I've read them, and they're just beautiful works of fiction. They're not really even fiction, they're based on her life, and it's just they're a beautiful series. The next book on my list should come to no surprise if you know me, if you've been following me for a while, if you live in this world, and that is the Harry Potter series. I have Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone here with me. This is not my original copy from childhood, unfortunately. This series changed my life. I can't even get into it too much. It really catapulted me in a lot of ways into reading. These came out when I was in elementary school, late elementary school, and I went through a lot. I kind of grew up with Harry Potter and with the characters, and I went through a lot of what they went through, you know, without the whole going to Hogwarts thing. I dreamed about going to Hogwarts. I still do. These books just mean so much to me, and they really just catapulted me into a whole new world, a whole new level of reading. Really in the level of really diving 100% into the entire world of a book and what an author does. And J.K. Rowling changed my life as she's changed numerous other people's lives, and she continues to. So the next book that I want to include on this list is actually surprisingly not the one I thought I was going to include, but you know, we'll go with it. And that is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I mean, this introduced me to romance, let's just be real here, and Mr. Darcy, and all the wonderful things that is Pride and Prejudice. I love this. This was not, obviously this isn't the first classic I've ever read. You read a lot in school, you read a lot of classics. This one is the one that kind of brought, it was, you know, I found the humor in it. It brought a certain amount of levity to the whole idea of the classics genre. And this one, along with Jane Eyre, are two of my favorite. And it was a real toss-up as to which I would include, Pride and Prejudice or Jane Eyre, because they both have such meaning in my life. I wrote my entire senior paper on Jane Eyre. So yeah. If that tells you anything about how much these two, Pride and Prejudice and Jane Eyre, and to be completely honest, my senior paper could have gone with either novel. So yeah, this one just, it made me fall in love with the classics and the time period that a lot of classics are from. Classics are very hard to read because it's a completely different lifetime, and Pride and Prejudice really was a good introductory. Pride and Prejudice and Jane Eyre, also good introductory classics. The next book that I want to talk about, I mentioned, you can probably see it by now, I've mentioned in my last video, I've mentioned in like the last like 10 videos I've made, to be completely honest, and that is literally because it really did change my life, and it is the perfect example of a work of complete fiction completely altering my life. It's not complete fiction, a work of fiction, I should say. It is a perfect example of a work of fiction completely altering my life, completely altering trains of thought that I have, and just flipping the script. And that is The Storyteller by Jodi Picoult. This was my top pick of 2017, my top read of 2017. It is one, if anybody ever asks me for a recommendation, and this kind of if they give me parameters, I'll stick within the parameters, but if they just ask me for a recommendation, this is the first book that I will recommend. That's how I found out about it, was a recommendation, and honestly, it just changed so much my train of thought when it comes to I don't even know, just people and backstories and history. Completely changed. It talks about, you know, what you did previous. Goodness, you just don't want to like stay upright. It talks about, you know, how your history and your past defines who you are, if it should define who you are, and how to deal with atrocities of the past. It's just incredible. It was a heartbreaking but fantastic story, and I recommend everybody should read it. And it just touched my life in a way that I can't begin to explain. And anyway. The last book that I want to talk about is A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. This book holds a special place in my heart and changed my life for a different reason. As a side note, this is my signed copy. This book changed my life because I had never, as an adult, I'd never read a book where I wholly saw myself in the female protagonist. I saw so much of myself in Diana. It was actually kind of eerie. I think like the one difference that we had, she's much more into like the science part of history. I'm not as big into the science part of history, but which is not saying it. I saw so much of myself in Diana. It was eerie. Like, we are one and the same. And as an adult, I had not gotten that experience. Even in her falling in love and finding her own person in love and in a relationship, and then later on in this, it's just, I kind of just gave away a spoiler. Even in finding herself and then the situations that she encounters, and I can't really give away too much because they're spoilers, and I don't want to ruin this for anybody, but needless to say, I saw so much of myself in a character, and that had not happened to me as an adult in a book ever. And there was so much about her character, from the little mundane like things that she would do to the bigger life decisions she made, how she handled herself in every situation that she was put into. I think there was like one situation that I was like, I wouldn't do that. But for the rest of them, I was like, and it was a small thing. It wasn't even a big like plot situation. But in every way, I just saw so much of myself. And I'd read this at a time where I was kind of like at a loss for reading. And not so much at a loss, but it was just a time when I needed to get back into the swing of reading and back into like how much I wanted to read. And this really came at that pivotal time of, you know, I needed something to like jolt me back into it. And not only is this character just so special to me, and this whole trilogy really is so special to me, but it really gave me that jolt of lightning almost that I needed to get back into reading. So this is one of those books that I feel like doesn't get talked about a lot. I talked about it in my last recommendations list. I feel like it doesn't really get talked about a lot, and they're coming out with a TV show, so you should go pick up the books before it comes out. And yeah, much like J.K. Rowling, Deborah Harkness just changed my life. And is still to this day. I follow her author page. She's got new books coming out, and I want more. I dove right back into a world and gave myself wholly over to that world, and I have like 3 copies of these books now. So those are the few books that I wanted to talk to you guys today about that have changed my life, or affected me in some way. And I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Hit below and let me know of a book or two that have changed your life. And I will talk to you guys really, really soon.